Hi, I'm Amanda Fleetstra, Managing Editor at Internet Retailing. For those joining us for the first time, Internet Retailing provides insight and analysis for retailers navigating growth and innovation across global markets. Today's webinar explores a key question: where's left to grow and how can retailers succeed as they enter new international markets? I'm delighted to be joined by two fantastic guests, Steve Peniston, owner of High Street Brands for Less, and Bobby Toulis, Group Managing Director at GFS. Steve, let's start with you. Could you tell us a bit about yourself and about Brands for Less?
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, I think my career started a million miles away from what I'm doing now. My background's in financial services, primarily in the NatWest Group. I did various roles there in area, regional management, business development, projects. The last of my employed career was with as sales and marketing director of Open and Direct Retail Finance. Unfortunately, I got ill with something called ME, which some of you may have heard of. So I had a number of years out of work. As my health improved, I started High Street Brands for Less. That was in 2011. If you probably remember, we just come out of the financial crash at that point. Excuse me. And through some of the financial publications that I still subscribe to, it was saying that the cosmetic sector was probably one of the most resilient market sectors there were. So we set out with High Street Brands for Less with a mission to help women look and feel their best for the lowest possible price. So we sell branded cosmetics that you'll find on the high street, items that you'll buy from current ranges, but more heavily discounted, and also items that you can't find in the shops anymore that we can still source. And that's sort of one of our USPs. So we're a team of four now, turning over £1 million or approaching £1 million annually, and we sell via our website, eBay, Amazon, Frugo, and TikTok.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bobby, could you give us an overview of GFS?
I will, but first I need to correct something, because if our CEO is listening to this, Tom Ashley is going to think I've promoted myself. So I'm not Group Managing Director, I'm Group Marketing Director. So
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine. So thank you very much, Amanda. Thank you, Steve. By the way, I love what you said about High Street Brands, helping women look their best for less. Isn't that wonderful? I love that. Okay, so GFS, we are the UK's largest provider of managed multi-carrier services and technology. And we're very proud to say that we are the delivery partner for High Street Brands for Less.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you very much. Okay, so today we're talking about the fact that growth in the UK is tight and the US is no longer the easy win it once was. So where can retailers go next? In this session, we'll be mapping out smart, low-risk ways to grow international e-commerce sales. Think fast-moving, fast-growing markets where UK retailers still have strong demand, fewer trade barriers, and solid delivery infrastructure to scale fast. So going to you first, Steve. You've been selling online for several years. What motivated you to start looking beyond the UK for growth?
Well, I think initially it was to increase the volume of sales that we were doing. I mean, the world is your oyster, as they say. So why just have shops in the UK when you can have a presence in so many countries over the world with access to millions, if not billions of customers? I think one of the things we also found out fairly early on was that you can achieve higher margins internationally. Well, it's been our experience than we can domestically. I mean, in the UK, there's just so much choice, but in other countries, the supply of certain lines or brands even is actually quite limited. So that means the international market is less price competitive than the UK, which is good for business. We also found out, we do a lot of free postage in the UK. For international business, we have to charge for it. But as a result of that, customers tend to make more of their purchase. So they'll add more items to the basket to make the order more worthwhile. So overall, I'd say we benefit from a wider customer base, more sales and higher margins. I think possibly one other thing which is quite interesting for us. I mean, I think everyone will be aware at the minute it's a bit chilly. We're not selling much sun cream at the minute in the UK, but we also sell in Australia, and obviously it's very hot over there right now. So, we're selling loads of that kind of product to Australia, where at the minute we're not selling any of it in the UK. So that's a good bonus for us.
Okay, how do you decide what new markets to test next, and what signs tell you that a market is worth scaling into?
Well, I think the key thing in our business is whether we can get integrations with our channel providers for the markets that we want to work with. And that's really so we have a seamless flow of orders, and we can execute those orders in an efficient manner. I'd say that we're quite a high volume and a low margin business. So integration is everything really for us. What we have to look at when we're looking at new markets is we look to see whether the marketplaces have any restrictions on the products we want to sell. We look at the local regulations. Different countries have different finance and tax obligations. And there's also customs and duties to consider. And I think a large part of our decision will depend on whether there's a delivered duties paid option available, which makes life a lot simpler for the end user and also us to a certain degree. As mentioned before, supplies of certain lines and brands in different countries can be quite limited. So there's a great potential for growth outside the UK. And I think one of the things, again, we've probably been surprised with is that Max Factor of all brands, we sell so much of that in Australia. So that would intimate to me that we're either very much more price competitive in those markets, or in the Australian market with Max Factor, or the fact that supply isn't possibly as good as we experience over here. We also found that we can sell products in many cases cheaper to our international buyers than they can buy themselves domestically, and I think that comes back down to the supply argument I was talking about earlier. I think the competitive of postal costs for us as a business is pretty critical, as we're selling low value items. So our postage charge can't be disproportionate to the sales value in the overall basket, and so therefore keeping our costs low is absolutely imperative.
That makes sense. Okay, question for Bobby. What else do you see influencing UK retailers' decision on which international markets to enter?
I think Steve has put it really succinctly. Essentially, what you're looking at is you're asking yourself the main questions. Where's the opportunity? So in which markets can you see that there are going to be consumers that are going to want to be able to buy your product, want your product? Do they shop online? Is there a cultural fit? Is there a requirement for your product? These are all sort of like really big, really important question around where's the opportunity. The next big question is going to be, what will it take for us to be able to sell and market our product in that country? And what you're looking to do there is balance the risk versus the revenue opportunity. And so you'll be asking yourself things like what's going to cost to sell it, to market it, to fulfill it, to ship it, all those questions that Steve has just asked. And at the end, the biggest question is, can we win? When you take all those factors into consideration, can you win? Can you make the profit you need to make? Can you compete against businesses providing similar products at similar price? And it just boils down to asking all those main questions, and then being able to shortlist the countries based on where you've got the lowest risk and the highest potential revenue, which what we're seeing are countries, first and foremost, we see customers when they're looking into international expansion, the first market they may want to go into is Ireland, because it's cultural fit, there's no issue with language. So from, you've got, there's potentially high revenue potential there and low risk. So that would be sort of the first opportunity. And behind that would be the Netherlands before you start looking at markets like Germany, like France, or further afield, where you've got to then get into localization and translations.
Okay. Steve, many UK retailers traditionally look to the US first, but as we mentioned earlier, it's no longer the easy win it once was. So what led you to focus away from the US and explore other international markets instead?
Well, historically, the US has always been a very good market for us, but unfortunately, the new tariffs just don't really work for our business model. I think the ever-changing and fluid environment is just not easy to competently navigate at the moment. For our business, buyer reviews, the feedback they leave for our business post-purchase are absolutely critical. So we made a strategic decision to stop selling there to make sure that we didn't have poor buyer experiences that could, damage our brand, if you like. I think it's really important for any business really that you've got a wide array of channels and markets in which to trade in, really just to mitigate your risk. And I think that's important for any business. One thing you don't want to do as a business is have all your eggs in one basket, because at the end of the day, what happened in the US could also happen somewhere else in the future. We just don't know yet. I would expect the US to return. I think in the fullness of time, things will settle. The tariff situation will be relaxed. Hopefully, the de minimis will be reinstated, possibly at a lower level. But then again, as far as our business is concerned, we don't need the $800 that it used to be. $200 or $300 would suffice for us for virtually everything we do in the States. So we're hopeful that will come back. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty positive that we will again do business in the States. There may well be new ways to transact in the States, using a model which is or compatible with how we work.
Sure. So what surprised you most about international customers, whether that's delivery expectations, service standards, or returns?
Well, I think customers globally are demanding. I think that's down to the prime experience that they've become used to. I think also internationally their expectations are shaped by the experience of their own domestic postage standards. I mean, we've found customers in say Germany, France, Italy, Spain, for example, will possibly have higher expectations of delivery than certain other European countries where perhaps their experiences aren't quite so good. But generally, customers are happy to wait longer. The customers sourcing the product from abroad, buying from us, for example, and that's down to two things. It's either down to the fact that we can actually sell it to them at a cheaper price, or they're having trouble buying that product in their own country. So it's either down to supply or price. I think probably on the negative side, the returns can be a bit challenging, and I'm very happy to say that we don't have too many problems with returns, which is good. But as we said before, on a more positive note, we do benefit from higher margins. The lack of supply does mean less price competition, so we benefit from a profit point of view there. We also get much higher average order values internationally, and I think as I said before, that's down to postage costs, people making it a lot more worthwhile to make the purchase and buy more things. So the items packed per order for our international business is significantly higher for international than it is domestically. We also get quite a high level of repeat buyers internationally, and again, that probably comes down to supply. But I think probably the most surprising thing that we learned is that we were being used in many cases as a wholesaler rather than retailer. I mean, we're essentially a retailer selling at discounted retail prices, but some of our international customers might buy 20 or 30 of exactly the same thing. So they're using us basically as a wholesaler to then sell on in their own country, and that's really good news for us.
Okay. And with global retail shifting, where do you see the most promising growth opportunities for UK retailers right now?
I think, the title of the webinar is "Where's Left to Grow?" And I'd probably stand that on its head and say, well, where isn't? Without getting political, Brexit was less than helpful. GDP for our country fell greatly as a result of Brexit. That's been well publicised and documented. So initially our EU sales fell through the floor, but they have since recovered, which is good news. Not back to the levels that they were, but they certainly have recovered. And I think really in the world that we live today, both the EU and the UK, we both need to win. So I'm hoping that there'll be some relaxation of some of the regulations in the near future. As mentioned before, in the US, the de minimis rules, I would like to think that at some point shortly they'll be reinstated and possibly the tariffs relaxed. But what I would say is that, markets which have been particularly strong for us have been New Zealand, Australia that I've mentioned before, and also Canada's also been good. So it's really a question, I think, of combining, our strengths, making sure we're making use of technology in the best possible way so we achieve the best of both worlds and try and make international retailers as simple basically as our domestic market is.
Okay, I have another question for you. So you're now selling to multiple markets through GFS International. Can you tell us what your current international setup looks like and which regions or marketplaces you're most active in?
Okay, well, I mean, it's a fairly straightforward setup. With eBay, we list directly onto the German site, the French site, the Italian, Spanish. Whilst we've paused US, we have access to that. We list directly on the Canadian site and also Australia. But all of those countries have the options to post to other European countries as well as all else around the world. On Amazon, we've got stores in Germany, Italy, France, the Netherlands, and Spain. And there are further integrations that we can take advantage of, but that we just need some of the integrations to work with those. But Frugo, we've got the opportunity to trade in 46 countries with them, and we're currently using 35. But we have a unified operational structure across all of our international marketplaces, and that's thanks to the integrations that we have between the company that runs our site and GFS. And what that means essentially is that it allows us to build, scalably and consistently across different markets, but without changing our internal processes.
Okay. Bobby, do you see many UK retailers expanding internationally through marketplaces?
Absolutely. I mean, it's no coincidence that Steve has just all the markets that he's mentioned, they're there via, Steve is selling through marketplaces. Marketplaces are a fantastic way to test go into new countries. They're low risk, they're potentially low cost, and it's a very quick way to validate if you can win there or not. So marketplaces are absolutely fantastic. And certainly, like I said, as the first phase, to be able to just test the market to see, can I win? Is there an appetite there for my product? Can I build some brand awareness before I maybe go next phase to see if I want to establish my own local website there and put further money into it? But again, not all marketplaces are the same. So you've got your global marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Frugo in many markets. But you've really got to understand the local market that you're looking to enter. I mentioned Netherlands earlier on. Netherlands, probably the second most attractive market after Ireland, if you're looking for low risk, potentially high revenue opportunity. But there, shoppers prefer to shop locally on bol.com rather than amazon.nl. So you need to really understand your market before you determine what your best route to market is going to be. But marketplaces absolutely are the most sensible way to test a market, and in a low cost, low risk, quick way.
Yeah. Steve, before GFS, what were some of the toughest challenges that you faced internationally, and what's changed in terms of simplifying how you manage cross-border deliveries day to day since you partnered with GFS?
Okay, well, I think previously, where there were issues or barriers, we had quite limited tracking visibility across the carriers that we used. Our delivery costs were certainly an awful lot higher pre-GFS, and that was exacerbated by Brexit, where the costs just really went through the roof. I think, we were managing quite a few different carriers at that time, and that created inefficiencies in our own internal operation. And I think that just added complexity to what we were doing, which increases, our costs and the amount of input the staff had to have. When we partnered with GFS, it had a huge positive impact. And GFS, is very integral to what we do on a daily basis here. We manage quite a high volume of cross-border deliveries with ease, really. I mean, a lot of what comes off our system is really done at the touch of a button, so it's very, very simple. But the system itself, I mean, it simplifies labeling. It provides us full end-to-end tracking rather, with full visibility across all the markets that we have. We have automation of all the HS codes, the weights, customs descriptions, etc. So it just means that the process is really, really simple and it's quick, which is really important when we're processing as many orders as we're doing now. And I think without having any manual intervention, I mean, that's great because obviously it saves us time and staff costs, but the most important thing is we don't want any mistakes, because if there's mistakes that go out, then parcels don't get delivered and then you end up with an unhappy customer. So keeping it simple and automated just makes such a difference. And that's been probably the biggest thing that we've noticed through when we moved across. Our staff, we've got various different staff that do different things, but I wouldn't say any of them are, I would say, particularly technically minded. So the complexities of customs declarations and all that sort of thing, that's not something that they do. Everything is done automatically. So they press a button, the label pops out, we send our orders off to GFS, they process them, they get delivered to the customer. It's just really straightforward. So that's probably been the biggest thing. I think one of the other things which has been good for us is, you talked about a multi-carrier solution, and that's really important, because if something goes wrong in a particular country, and we had an issue with Canada not long ago, when they all seemed to be on strike forever, and basically, we could, if we only had one way of getting our products into Canada, have to stop trading, because things were taking weeks and weeks and weeks to get there. But because GFS have got a multi-carrier solution, they were able to reroute our parcels so we could still keep our lines open to Canada, and the customers were happy. So that was really important to us. And I think really we've got a continuous focus on improvement and efficiency. We work quite closely with GFS to look at our solutions, look at the problems that are coming up, because the rules and regulations are constantly changing. And it's just a question of coming up with that solution that's going to work for everybody, because at the end of the day, our business success is based on the reviews and feedback that we get. So for example, on eBay, I think we're sitting at the minute about 99.7, I think it is, as a positive feedback on our eBay store, and making sure that we've got the right solutions in place to keep that going is so important.
Yeah. And following on from that, you sell through multiple marketplaces and channels. So how do you manage delivery operations without adding complexity?
Well, I think we've probably touched on a couple of these before. I mean, the most important thing is to make sure that we've got a similar process for everywhere that we're sending parcels to, and so we achieve that with GFS. It doesn't matter whether it's a Frugo order or an Amazon order or eBay, wherever it comes from, it's the same process for everything. So really what we do is all our orders come into our central system. We work out whether they're duty paid countries or whether they're international and don't need that, and we just batch process everything, and basically we hit a button and all of our international orders will basically pop out the printer, and that's the job done. And the same thing for our orders where we're under IRS rules within Europe. We process those as a separate batch as well. So it's two, if you like, separate print runs, but we're dealing with two different sets of rules, but it's just straightforward. And again, we don't have any manual intervention with this. It really is, you press the button, the label pops out the machine. So that there really isn't any margin for error, and that's pretty fundamental. And I think probably the confidence that gives us as a business is that it doesn't matter what marketplace or country we look at going into next. We know that we're still going to have to press the same buttons on, or our staff is going to press the same buttons on the computer, and out pops the labels and away you go. So it's a good solution for us.
Okay, brilliant. What would you say are the biggest benefits of having a managed multi-carrier like GFS supporting your delivery operations?
Well, I think probably because of the volume of transactions that go through. We certainly benefit from the cost efficiencies that come out the back of that, and the economies of scale. We have a very streamlined internal process with GFS. We've got one main point of contact. I don't know whether I'm allowed to name check our account manager, but it's a lady by the name of Saskia. She's brilliant. She's worth her weight in gold. And if we do have any issues or whatever, they're quickly resolved. So that's what's really important for us. We talked about the multi-lane flexibility, and I say, that really provides us, with resilience and choice more than anything else. But any issues that we have, we've got one point of contact, and things get resolved quickly. I think what it does mean for us more as a business is it takes our attentions away from having to deal with the administration or any administrative burden that international puts on a business. It just means that we can focus on our own growth and strategy and customer experience. So, because what's important to me as a business owner is that we can spend more time delivering our company's vision, getting our products into more countries, teaming up with more channel providers, because that way, that's how we're going to grow our business. So I think the collaboration really between us and GFS really combines the best of delivery experience and retail experience to the best.
Fantastic. And Bobby, choosing to work with a single multi-carrier partner rather than directly with multiple partners does seem to be a no-brainer. Are you seeing a trend towards this in the industry? And if so, what do you think is driving it?
Definitely. And I think a lot of what's behind it is exactly what Steve said, where businesses are looking for being able to leverage buying power. So working with a single multi-carrier partner means that that partner is able to probably negotiate, because they're consolidating all their volumes. They've possibly got a lot more buying power than, say, if you were as a business going to negotiate across multiple carriers. You've got less buying power, and you're diluting your buying power because you're splitting all your volumes across various carriers. So each, to be able to get competitive price and access really good price is going to be difficult, but that's not really the most of it. The fact is that it's the ease and the simplicity that Steve said, to have one place to go where you're going to get access to all the services in one place, whether that's domestic or international. Have the confidence of knowing that you're getting a good buy price, that you're able to, your budget is working for you. But also, most importantly, it's knowing that you're working with a partner that's got your back. So there's contingency when you need it, like the Canada Post strikes. Steve didn't have to worry about, how am I going to divert my parcels? We already did that for him in the background. He probably didn't even know that had happened until we told him we diverted it from Canada Post to, I can't remember which provider we used, because that's our job, to be able to protect Steve's business. So having contingency, but also that expert advice, having someone that is an expert in delivery and logistics, in customs duties, changes, all of that. Because as a business, you want to prioritize all your effort and your resources into growing your business and scaling your business, not having to worry too much about the logistical side of it. And that's where a managed multi-carrier partner comes in, to provide that support, not only in terms of expertise, buying power, but also the technology tools that Steve mentioned. You have to have a multi-carrier technology platform to be able to label for multiple carriers, ship for multiple carriers, track and trace your parcels, return your parcels, and do that from one place as well.
That makes sense. Steve, so as you look ahead to the rest of 2026, what's next for High Street Brands for Less?
I think one of the things that we're going to try and do for the remainder of this year is actually broadening our product range quite a bit, and adding a number of complementary product lines to what we're doing. Because one thing that's really important for our business, and probably most others, is the more items you can get in a sale, your margins get incrementally higher. So that's one thing that we're looking at doing. We're looking at expanding into new international markets as well. That's become a large part of what we do. Our international business, I would say, probably accounts for somewhere near on 30% of our overall business volume. So it's, and there's lots of other places we can go. That's going to be really important for us. We will be looking at trying to incorporate AI in a very controlled way to add value and complement what we're doing at the moment. But we'll focus on how we can improve our business through technology and the integrations that we can leverage to make sure that we can achieve the best of both worlds with the partners that we deal with. So very much at the minute, I would say these are very exciting times for our business.
Brilliant. Well, I wish you all the best of luck with that. That's all time we've got time for today. So thank you both for joining us and for those fantastic insights.
Thank you to
pleasure.
And thank you to everyone who's been watching our webinar today. If you'd like to explore this topic further, you can find more research and analysis on internetretailing.net. Have a great afternoon or morning, and we look forward to welcoming you to our next event. Thank you.